What a surprise, Paul. What would you like to ask?
When we all transition.
Popper's clogs. Fall off the twig, yes.
Well, because you're a medium, are you more highly, would you go to a higher plane than the rest of us here?
Gosh. Oh yes, of course. No. Remember that we don't know fully who we are when we are here. We don't know what we've accomplished in past lives. We don't know what our true vibrational rate is. So each of us, upon passing from this world, is able to integrate with a spectrum of vibrations up to the point where that vibration is above ours. So anything below that, and including that, we can go to. Remember that we've had past lives as well. We don't know what we've accomplished. We don't know what we've been. So some of us will need that boat because we are not aware that we're spirits. We will eventually become aware again that we are spirits. And some of us, upon passing over, will think, oh, wait a minute, I remember, I'm going home. And we will find ourselves in the vibration that we left before we came here. But not only that, it could be, for example, we go back to a level of a soul group, and they say, oh, well done, on behalf of us all, you have gone through certain experiences that are now allowing us to move up a level. So get your suitcase, and we're off. And you move up to somewhere even more refined in vibration as a result of the experiences that you've had during your earthly life, and bringing back those experiences to the group. Because you can come here to go through experiences not just on behalf of yourself, but on behalf of your soul group. There are certain lessons that you think, why is it always me? Why is this always happening? I'm trying to be a good enough person. I don't deserve this. And there are certain circumstances, certain trends, certain patterns that are inbuilt into us as physical beings that we have to resolve or rise to the challenge of on behalf of not just ourselves, but our soul groups as well. Right. So we can come back with a test, with a mission, for example, to clear some karma, to clear something that applies to a certain number of those members of the soul group. Not necessarily karma that has originally been ours, but it is shared by the soul group. We have elected to come back and to sort out certain aspects of that karma, which if done successfully, will allow the soul group to move on. Yes?
So,
Mike? No, that's it. No, I've had it. Right, yes.
in one of in Joseph's books, he says you can bypass the cleansing figure. You can bypass, if you do your spiritual work now, you can bypass the cleansing spheres and go into a higher. How long does it take you to get out?
26.
How do you what they call it when you start to create universes? How highly evolved do you have to be?
Well, first of all,
start working on universes.
First of all, you are. First of all.
I'm afraid of meeting Tony down asking me to do.
First of all, our concept of heaven through many religions is wrong. We think that you move from here, you go to heaven, and that's it. I'm not saying that you sit on clouds and play harps, but you arrive at heaven and that's it. I could never understand why the spheres beyond this one seem to be nested around the earth. And they are nested around the earth because of the fall. Before we escape into greater reality totally, we have to cleanse ourselves of the effects of the fall. Not as a judgment, but because if we don't, our vibrational rate is too low to allow us entry into those higher spheres. So the cleansing spheres exist to do just that, to cleanse us gradually, so that we can escape from the effects of the fall and take our place back as what we once were. Now, on the level of creating planets and stars and galaxies, we do that as the angelic beings we really are. Yeah. So Joseph, for example, is in a very high sphere. The Persian gentleman is in a very high sphere, but they're not yet in angelic spheres. And I can share with you another example of what lies ahead for you, because that sparked one off. Thank you. In that, imagine that you are in one of the spiritual spheres and a call goes out to you. You're invited to an arena, for want of a better word, a vast arena, circular, and it's got tiered seats along its walls. And you appear there, and there are thousands, perhaps millions of souls there, and it's a joyous event. And there are lecterns in the center of this area. And suddenly there appear at these lecterns high spirits, higher than the sphere that you are on, and angels higher than those spirits. And those spirits and those angels deliver lectures to you, talk to you about life, the universe, and everything. And as they do so, colored rays of knowledge wash out from them and wash over you. And you go away exhilarated that you have learned more and excited about the possibilities that are ahead of you. So it's a progression always. Where does that progression end? I don't know. I don't know. Because just as the angelic host is evolving, the experiences that are brought back to the angelic host are then taken back to the Godhead, and the Godhead is evolving. God is becoming more. Just as we are becoming more every day of our lives here, the divine is becoming more too. So we're not privy to all the information yet. But I think the journey goes on and on. It is exciting. Yeah, it is exciting. The gentleman behind you.
Can you tell us a little bit about from the fall? I think I read that this is the only planet that's affected.
Yes, yes.
That was actually arrived quite close, but we can't see it.
Yes.
Vibration.
Yes.
And there's all the universes. I mean, that's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing that we made this mistake, and we made this mistake to end up here, didn't we? You know, of all the planets and all the worlds, as they say in Casablanca, we had to choose this one. Yes. Yeah. Let me get my train of thought back. Yes. I want to get my train of thought back because I was once privileged to see in our skies, when we look up at night, we see the moon sometimes. And if we're lucky and there isn't light pollution, we see the stars. Actually, hanging in the sky, there is a planet very, very close to us on a different vibration that is about 3 times the size of Earth. And I was once allowed to see that planet, and it was a magnificent sight. But not only that, once when we were communicating with the guides, the soul group members, suddenly this man appeared in front of me, very tall, blonde hair, very good looking. And I thought, and the guide said, "You're right." He said, I thought, he's not from here. This person is from that planet. And I was allowed only for a few moments to see one of the inhabitants of that planet. But yes, as far as Joseph is aware and the soul group is aware, we're the only ones that have locked ourselves in to this extent. And isn't it interesting that as we've been exploring the solar system, we discovered a barrier at its end. There's a barrier, isn't there? A vibrational barrier. And Joseph describes an exclusion zone around this solar system, but there is a physical equivalent of it as proof that we are, attempt no landings there, it's dangerous. Leave them alone, let them get out of it. Tony, you wanted to.
I just thought it was opportune with the subject that was coming out to perhaps talk about don't come back.
Yeah, don't come back yet. Don't come back. Reincarnation, as a young man, which I'm not now, always worried me. The concept of reincarnation. The snake biting its own tail, coming back and back and back. Because in my mind, reasoning it out, if we each have free will, how come free will doesn't apply to reincarnation? Free will applies across the universe, but not where reincarnation's concerned. With reincarnation, you have to come back. You've no choice. That didn't make sense to me. But then when I started bringing Joseph through, Joseph explained it and said, we reincarnate because, like the people on that boat that haven't prepared themselves for the spiritual journey, So many of us prefer coming back here to moving on into what for us is the unknown. We've never explored it. We've never examined the concept of life after death. It's a closed book to us. And believe me, there are advisors and helpers on that side that come to us all the time once we've passed over and say, look, you've got a choice. You can go back or you can move on. Now, it's wonderful over there. It's fantastic, and the journey will open and open and open, and you will experience more bliss. You will be with people you love. Trust us. Now, what are you going to do? Do you want to move onwards, or do you want to go back for the beer? And they think, beer sounds nice.
I find that hard to understand why you want to come back.
Yes, yes. But,
To me, it seems like
well, you can see it now with certain aspects of society. They are so ingrained into this, that this for them is all that they're building into their consciousness. This is it. The power is everything. The money is everything. Everything that I can hear and feel and see and touch, that's everything. This is all there is. And they build that in as a block. It becomes a block. And sometimes they will move on having had, for example, just as examples, a business that's failed or a relationship that's failed.
that's correct.
This time I can get it right. Well, no, you can't. Because this next time that you come back, your inherent material vibrations are still in the ether of this world and will inexorably cluster around you. So that you will experience again, until you act in a different way, you will experience those same challenges again. And unless you act in a different way, you'll get it wrong again. And you'll suffer again. And you'll be in pain again. So why come back? I remember personal experience. I don't think there's any better than relating personal experience to illustrate a point. I used to have a situation that would crop up in my life every 2 years. Every 2 years. Exactly the same situation, different people involved, but the same situation in different clothes. And I'd be expecting it. I think, oh my goodness, we're almost at the 2-year point. And it would mess up my life to a huge degree, until the point at which I thought, right, what have I done in the past? I've approached it in a certain way. Let's approach it in a different way. I approached it in a different way, it disappeared. Never to haunt me again, you know. And until those people that are faced with the same karmic challenges approach those challenges in a different way, they'll keep coming back to haunt them.
What about fear and religion? You know, are you told that if you've done anything bad, you're going to get punished when you go to the other side or wherever? Is that what stops people going?
There's a word for that, but I can't use it in here. Yeah. Many religions, not all religions, but many religions work by control. For example, I was brought up in a certain religion, and in that certain religion, you have to go to the representative of that religion in order to connect with God. You can't connect yourself, you have to go through that person. And so that person's role in life is assured from them becoming that person to passing, because they have you under their control. And that religion was also a religion of guilt. I'm guilty. I can't move forwards because I'm guilty of this, I'm guilty of that. I've got to think about all these terrible things that I'm doing. The only person that judges us when we get to the other side is us. Nobody judges. God doesn't judge us. The guides that come to advise us don't judge us. We judge ourselves. The people around us don't judge us. We judge ourselves. And we judge ourselves in the sense that once we enjoy, in inverted commas, the life review and relive some of the experiences that we've had during that earthly life, we see that certain of those experiences and the way that we acted are holding us back. And we have to review those circumstances, and we have to determine a path for ourselves that allows us to wipe out those circumstances, to raise our vibrations, and to move onwards into the light. But nobody forces us to have the life review. We have to have it at some stage. Nobody forces us. It's when we're ready. And then having had it, we judge what we've done. We are shown the consequences of what we've done, the limitations that we've put ourselves under. And then we have to work ourselves out of it. Because if we don't, we're stuck in that vibrational gap until we do so. We can't go anywhere else. We don't resonate with higher vibrations, so we can't visit them. We can't be a part of them until we have refined ourselves, forgiven ourselves on occasion, forgiven others on occasion, moved out of the things that we've done that have slowed down our vibration, realized that they were a mistake for us, that they were limiting for us, and we move on. Hiya, Rebecca.
Following from that, you're talking about that on the spirit side of life.
Yes.
Putting things right. But we're here and aware of this. So I'm guessing that we can do quite a lot while we're here to put things right in terms of our own personal lives of forgiveness.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Sorry, continuing.
My question is, can you do that spiritually here, or does it also need to be in physical? For example, if you've done somebody wrong, could you take a meditation in the courtyard, for example, or do you need to go to them and really physically apologise?
Well, sometimes you can't get to them. It's nice to apologise, but you can always, in your meditations, as you say, look, you and I have not seen eye to eye, and it's all nonsense. So I apologise to you, because you're spirit to spirit, you're reaching them anyway. I apologise to you for anything that I have done that may have harmed you. I, for a while, thought that you have harmed me, but now it doesn't matter. And so I forgive you, but then there's nothing to forgive between us. And so we are both love, we are both part of God, and I wish you well in your life, and I hope that in return you wish me well in mine. Yeah, we can repair a lot of damage on this level, because we have, each of us, something that is very, very handy and is built into us, and it's a God-given compass, and it's called a conscience. And we know when we've done something that goes against that conscience. We're not being judged by ourselves. We know that that vibration is wrong for us. That vibration is not in line with how we should be and how our connection with God should be. But so many of us at this time are just putting a lid on that conscience. I'll put it over there, it doesn't matter. But it does matter. And if it is allowed to flow through us during our meditative times, it tells us those areas where we have not transgressed, but slowed down our progress or harmed others, and we have an opportunity to put things right. But as the lady was saying over there, her relatives were responding to her. Sometimes you will forgive somebody and they won't want to be forgiven. And they won't want to talk to you. It doesn't matter. You can send it to them in meditation, as you say in the courtyard. You can say, it doesn't matter what you think. I forgive you. I love you. And then you have released yourself from that half of the equation, and you can move on. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Can I just ask just one quick question about the choice about coming back? You know, once you've passed on, I'm wondering if that, when you're a spirit, you can see people grieving, oh, I wish they hadn't died, I wish they'd come back. Do you think that would make people think, I want to go back to the earth?
It could be a factor, but you can sense what's happening to people on Earth when you move over. It's as though you're viewing them on a screen and you can see how they're being affected. But you have to remember you've also got your greater consciousness from that point of view. So weighing that up against where you now are, and knowing that those people will actually be where you are now in a relatively short time.
You have a higher view.
Perspective. You have a higher perspective. Everything looks different. Everything looks more complete, because you're looking from the point of view of your spiritual mind and your spiritual heart. So when we look at people on Earth and situations on Earth, we're only looking at one facet of the whole story. We're not seeing the vibrations entangled with that story. We're not seeing the outcome. We're not seeing what caused that story to arise in the first place. Whereas we can holistically look at something from the point of view of the spirit world. And not only that, but there's something else that we can all do as spirits. One day, we can go into a vast library on the spirit side of life. Vast library. And instead of books on those shelves, relatively speaking, abstractly speaking, there are files, and each file is somebody's life. And you're looking along, you think, oh, that looks interesting. That looks like an interesting story, what they did. And you mentally connect with the person whose life it was and say, do you know, I'd like to experience that. Do you mind if I open and look at the book of your life? And they say, go ahead. If that's going to enhance your experience spiritually, go ahead. So you open the book, and in multiple dimensions, out comes that life. And for a time, also knowing that you're in the library looking at the book, relatively speaking, you live that life. And then you fold it away, you put it back into the folder, you put it back on the shelf, and you say to that person, thank you. That has enhanced my experience of life. And now that you've been through that, and I've been through it with you, I don't need to experience that. I already have, thank you so much. Because we're all linked to each other. So we're going through experiences not just on behalf of ourselves, but on behalf of everyone else too. Amazing stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, and I have seen people at the point, quite a few people at the point of death, because I worked at the hospital, where relatives have been crying, you know, don't leave me, stay with me, and the person's hanging on around, and then they've nipped to the loo, or gone for a cup of tea, and then the person's
Gone.
gone. And they've stayed with them day and night, and the minute they've left, the person's gone.
Yes, yes. So they were holding on for that. Because there's the physical and there's the spiritual. And of course it's difficult. It's difficult for us here, particularly if we don't have knowledge that there is something else. We believe that we're losing that person forever. You know, and even with spiritual knowledge, it's difficult. But it shouldn't be like this. If we were all spiritually aware now and able to see spiritually now, we would know that those people are just around a bend in the road and that we would meet them very soon along our own life path. And we would know, because we would receive visits from them, that they were perfectly all right, like my dad, popping in to see me. I'm fine, don't worry about me, you know. Again, it's this close off because of the effects of the fall. We've buried our God consciousness. We have to get that back. Lady there.
I'm looking from a perspective of, say, one of the ruling elites, say, Henry Kissinger or something. He kind of held off life for as long as he could.
Yes.
Like as long as he could. And a lot of them are kind of going into AI and trying to basically say, no, we're going to die, we're going to be transhuman. But, you know, eventually, like Henry Kissinger, you die.
Yes.
So his choice would be, then, you know, move on, which probably would be a long journey.
Yeah.
But most of them seem to come back. How does he know what he's going to be coming back to as a soul?
Well, not all of them come back, because there's an area that we haven't talked about today, and that's the lower astral. And sometimes a spirit plunges itself into such depravity and darkness that it is not even compatible with the earth plane when it moves on. It's not compatible with any of the higher spheres. It is only compatible with a place that is quite grim and quite grey, and where it finds itself with others who are just like it. And there's a lesson, because everybody around you is just like you have been and are. Now, that might seem like a harsh judgment, but again, it's not a judgment. It's a matter of their vibration only being low, only being substantial enough to be sustained in that lower astral form. And there's always help for them. The minute they turn around from the way that they are and say, I need the light is there for them. And then they progress out of that sphere and into successive spheres, slowly, but into successive spheres. So the answer is, there are certain souls that have done so much on the negative side that they cannot progress higher than their vibration, as none of us can progress higher than the vibration that we've built into us during an earthly lifetime. And so they find themselves in this lack of light place because they have exhibited a lack of light.
When you look at people in there, they all use classic examples like Hitler.
There's always Hitler cited, yes.
When I look at the world now, there's loads of people who probably, in some deranged way, think they're doing the best by people, but do incredibly, I'm not going to name names, but do incredibly evil acts that spread around the world. What happens to those people who genuinely believe that they are trying to do well? Do they go to the lower astral, or they get, you did terrible things, but with the best of intentions? Yeah.
Belief has nothing to do with actual vibrational rate. It is what they've actually done that determines that vibrational rate, as opposed to what they think they've done.
Right.
So certain acts that are against their fellow men and women result in a low vibrational rate that take them to a corresponding, matching vibrational rate once they've passed over.
Right.
And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because
I tried to do my best, and I made a lot of money, but I tried to do my best, and look where I am.
But talking about conscience, I think that's another example of putting a lid on the conscience.
Yeah.
Because they may try and fool themselves to say that we're doing the best that we can, but they know at heart, not from here, but from here, that they're not. They're really not.
Yeah.
And they might convince themselves, but they're not going to convince the higher spheres.
Also, here in the Matrix, you've got bloodline families. You've got that seem to carry on the cycle. And I'm just trying to work out, are they from the same soul groups? Or, it's
Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily. We place great store, as you would expect, on bloodlines. But it doesn't matter that you are connected to somebody in blood in order to be connected to them on a soul group level or on a spiritual level. And we tend to incarnate in groups, as I've said, incarnated with Jane, Tony, Joan, in order to undertake specific missions. And Joan always described herself as my second mother, and she was in many ways closer to me in understanding me than my mum was. But we weren't related by blood, but we are eternally related as members of the same soul group. So yes, we should respect the bloodlines in our family, but they are only our family in one sense. They might be members of our soul group, but then again, they might not. It's a mixture usually.
And sometimes when those people, if they do sort of climb out of the lower astral and I want to go back to Earth and put it right, there's a real danger, especially for those people, because waiting for them on Earth are the thought forms that they've had. And it's a case of everybody, but in their particular case, they're really strong thought forms of, I want power, money, I'm going to do anything. And it's like, don't go back because you'll forget who you were and that'll be waiting for you. So often they will go back and make exactly the same mistakes again because of those thought forms. And those thought forms are another reason why we're drawn back in many cases. We're sort of, it's like an angelic child, but the wrong kind of child. And instead of us going back and forming our own angelic children, we've sort of kept reincarnating, and our children that we've created are the thought forms. It's quite a difficult concept, isn't it?
It is a difficult concept, yeah.
But,
Because they're alive then.
and so when you come back, they're waiting for you, those thought forms. And
Yes, we have.
Because you've got bloodlines, you've got families, so they've got a sort of an ethic.
it's not necessarily
It's passed
it's not
down.
relatives, it's your own thought form that's waiting for you when you reincarnate, and then you'll just make the same mistakes. So you're far better progressing in the spirit realm than out, because every time you come back to Earth, you've got to combat all the things you've done wrong in the last life that are waiting for you, those tendencies.
We half create here. We half create. We don't complete our creation. And so we don't realize that our dominant thoughts create thought forms around us that are sentient, because we're sentient and we're putting energy into them. But because we don't realize we're creating these thought forms, we don't complete them. They don't become complete, or they're not folded away and put back into the ether. So all those things on our vibrational level are waiting for us when we reincarnate, which is why it's such a mistake to come back here. And we draw them like a magnet. You did that before and that's waiting for you. You did that before, you didn't finish that and that's waiting for you. you know.
Jump on you, Susie boy.
Oh, terrible. Yeah, on your shoulders, it's awful. Yes. Dominic.
Certain medications are now known to affect consciousness and the soul, and a lot of people have had them innocently, but they've been given them rightly or wrongly. How is their consciousness, and I've seen it myself in people as well, who've changed beyond measure. How do they raise their vibration when they're not even aware that they're not totally...
It's a difficult one, because they have to first realize that they are a spirit person. They have to realize that there is something not quite right in their physical makeup, and then they have to infuse that physical makeup with light in order to transmute what has happened to them. It can be done, but that's a far cry. It's a long way away from convincing them in the first place that there's something wrong, because the mind says to them, no, it's fine. Somebody else recommended this to me, therefore it's fine. Well, it isn't fine. But we have to understand, first of all, and accept that it isn't fine in order to put it right. And Joseph talks about the time when, and I think we're a ways off yet, people will sit in groups with a person at the center of a circle, and they will send healing to them, and they will put things right. And if only we could do that now, we could have people who have realized that they have been damaged by certain things. We could sit them in the center of a circle. We could send spiritual vibration to them. Just as we're doing with the WMA, we're healing the world. We could heal people as well. And we could, if I could just be a moment, just a moment, sorry. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Sorry, it's gone. Yes, yes. They need to realize themselves that there is something wrong. But on that note, will be a moment. On that note, also, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday about what I thought about drugs that alter people in order for them to tune in spiritually. And what did I think about those? And I said, I don't think anything about them at all. I said, because I was taught, and I've said this before in these rooms, that there are 3 words that are very important when you are developing spiritually. And those 3 words are discipline, discipline, discipline. If you cannot, by yourself, alter your mind's frequency and recognize who is coming to talk to you, if you can't control your own mind, and you can't control your own mind when you're taking these specific drugs, how can you expect somebody else to link to that mind? You don't know who that person is. You don't know what their motives are. Some of the visions that people get in that altered state are quite terrible. And it's so unnecessary. We need people to be spiritual aware simply by applying a discipline to their consciousness and altering their vibrationary rate voluntarily and under controlled conditions, and then coming back again. And then they can recognize, you see, when the Persian gentleman comes to talk to me, or the big Indian, or Joseph, I recognize their vibration. It's not just that I recognize who they are visually, they have a certain set of vibrations that they give out that I recognize, and I know it's them. It's not somebody else dressed up as them, it's them. Whereas, if you're using mind-altering drugs to get in touch spiritually, you've no idea who you're talking to, or what their motives are. Yes, I understand that. I think it's a 2-part answer. Yeah. Because in both cases, you're having something that's being taken in by the body that is altering the vibrationary rate of the body. We can heal those people, but we can't heal them unless they want to be healed. And that's the problem. You have to first gently explain to them that there has been a shift, and that shift needs to be addressed if they are willing to have it addressed. And then we can send light to them. Lady at the end.
Really nothing.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, could I sit in the circle? Could I be in the circle?
Oh, I see. Well, you need have you got a competent circle at your church or around your church?
No, we've got one circle.
And?
No, don't do that. We do it occasionally, but not often enough. But I can't get there at the moment anyway.
Right. Can you ask for them to send out there?
Yeah, okay.
And we also have, Tony, we have a healing circle, haven't we? In that you can send out
Sure.
energy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just earlier on, you were talking
Janine.
about your own farm, where you said you're planting seeds and sometimes you do it manually.
Yes.
It just reminded me of something I thought before when I've been reading the books. I know we can create anything, which is brilliant. But what happens, say a guitarist, is somebody's, perhaps say Jimi Hendrix, somebody who's died a long time ago. Would they, because it seems because you can just create music or whatever, would they still, part of the thing was playing an instrument?
Yes.
So they would also have a choice, or they probably have better instruments, or things that would not be
Yeah.
invented.
Yeah.
Right.
It's their choice to continue.
Because that's amazing.
To continue that.
Yeah.
And
So
that.
somebody to think, well, that's a bit sad if you can't.
No,
If it's just like that, everything.
and for people who haven't played an instrument but have always wanted to, there is that opportunity as well. Freed from the limitation of, I can't do that. Yes, you can. But added to that, Jimi Hendrix's guitar playing is perhaps only one aspect of his creativity.
Yeah.
So he'll be playing his guitar, and he'll be making his universes, and he might be joining in some building with a soul group or whatever he wants to. He can multitask. He can be multifaceted, and that will be wonderful. Not only that, but sometimes the spirits on that side, as they move on, look down, relatively speaking, on what we're doing, and add their vibrations to what we're doing. In conjunction with working as a medium, which didn't pay very much, and I got to put food on the table, co-published a magazine called Sci-Fi and Fantasy Modeler. And I was once sitting with my spiritual mentor, and she said, I've got two people here. And one of them is, who was the chap that invented the Muppets? Jim Henson. I've got Jim Henson here. And I've got Derek Meddings. Now, Derek Meddings was the designer and special effects director on Jerry Anderson's puppet series, who went on to work on the James Bond films. And she said, I've got two heads here of puppets. And she described the heads. One was Jeff Tracy. And she said the other one was, and she wasn't into what I was into as a child. She said, this is Joe 90, if that makes sense. And I've got these heads. And they're saying, we take great interest in the magazine that you're putting together. We like it, and we'd like to add our energies to it. A few months down the line, a friend said, I've got some original casts from the puppets. Here's a Jeff Tracy head. Here's a Joe 90 head. So there is influence as well in a creative way, interest in what we're doing. And it's added to what we're doing as well. Yeah.
And once got a message I get from my grandma, and she used to paint, and she said that she still does. And sometimes she uses the equivalent of brush and paint, and sometimes she just does it with her mind. And she also said that she liked to inspire designers. Sometimes she'd sort of inspire sort of, costume designers as well. So she was sort of using her artistic flair, but if she wanted to use the paint and brush, she could. So you'll still be able to play your guitar later on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to reassure you.
I've not thought about what else, like you say, you can do.
Limitless possibilities.
So do you think these artists who are well known now, because Paul McCartney made a record, Let It Be, and he said he dreamt his mother gave him the lyrics when he was asleep.
Yes.
He wrote it in the morning, he dreamt it one
Yes.
when he was going through the troubled time.
Well, I used to do postal readings, which was a very strange thing. I used to put an advert in Psychic News. And as a result of that, from all over the world, people would send me a payment, and they would send me a photograph of themselves. And I'd go up into the attic room, and I'd sit there, look at a blank wall, put the photograph up, and somebody would say to me, somebody like the beginning would say, begin. And this long spiel, 3/4 of an hour, would come out of me. I put on cassette in those days. I'd send it back to them, and they'd say, how did you know all that? And I'd say, I didn't. I was given the information from higher up. But I'm mentioning that because on occasion you get somebody famous coming through. I was once sitting person to person with somebody, and I said, I've got a man here, and he says that you're reading his book and you're finding it quite interesting, just at this time. I said, but he's quite famous. And I wasn't quite sure who it was. And he said, yes. I said, who is it? He said, Peter Sellers. And then another lady, do you remember Buster Merrifield from Only Fools and Horses? Now, he was artistic. He used to paint. And I was giving a reading for someone, and Buster Merrifield came through and said, I admire what this lady is doing. Will you tell her and tell her to continue? Because I'm involved in the paintings that she does. And so you do get what we would call celebrity, but celebrity only exists here. You get spirits who are interested with similar vibrations as they move on and choose to dedicate a little of their time to helping someone or being interested in someone's endeavors here.
Change the subject. I just wondered, Michael, if you could talk a little bit about soul groups like the World Meditation Alliance that have taken on that role of bringing through the light. Obviously from past lives they've decided that they want to reincarnate into this world at this time with that purpose.
Yes.
With that role.
Yep.
And it'd be just nice to...
Yes, and it goes back to why come back. I didn't want to come back. Jane didn't want to come back. I don't know about you, Tony, but no. No. But there's a mission, and it is put out that that mission needs to be accepted. And as John used to say, it's easy on that side. They say you'll do A, B, C, and D, and you say, oh, that's great, that's fine. And it sounds wonderful, no problem. It's when we get here that we are faced with the vibrations that are around us, and we think, oh my goodness, what have I done? I will still do the mission, but why am I back here? So there's a choice. Some people come back here by choice because they want to experience certain things again. Some people come back here by choice, as you've said, because they want to make a difference. Just as Joseph's soul group chooses to come back and communicate with us and to stay here until we've all got out, that's a choice. They don't have to do that. Certain of us realize that we have to come back in order to be channels for the information that is needed to present to people so that through their free will they can decide whether to take that information on board or not. Believe me, there are times when we think, oh gosh, we have got this information through and it is priceless. It's absolutely priceless. If observed, if followed, it would change the world now. And we have such, I mean, I'm talking to fellow spirits here, but we have such difficulty in getting people outside of the readership to understand and even to look at the Joseph communications. Because as I said earlier, the main theme of the Joseph communications is personal responsibility. People don't want personal responsibility. Take it away from me. Make it all better. You do it. I can't be bothered. I'll put my feet up and watch television and have a beer. And it is difficult. So, yeah, it's a difficult task, but it is a rewarding task as well. Because here and there, a soul will write to us and say, you've changed my life forever. And you think, oh, thank you, Father, thank you. I'll never be the same. Or they'll say, I'm not coming back. Oh, great. You move on. You move out of here. Let the earth lie fallow for a bit and then be transmuted back to what it originally was. Because this earth is far different on a spiritual level than what we're looking at. It's crystalline, I've seen it. Within these structures, there are crystal structures. It's a luminous world. It's a transparent world. It's a world of color and sound and harmony. And we've encased and encrusted this world with our heaviness of vibration. So, does that answer your question? I know I've been going all around it.
Lots of people institutionalised.
Sorry, the lady at the back.
Well, it happened last night, and I also had it one night last week. So I've been estranged from my father, on and off, for 47 years.
Gosh.
So last night in a dream, it was just so loving.
and kind and just beautiful. It was really light. And even though I haven't seen it for years, it just felt really, it's just complete forgiveness and love and peace.
So is your father still here?
He's still here.
Yes,
He's still
yes.
here. But it's like we're meeting in a dream.
Yes, yes. Was your dream very realistic?
Very real.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the sign that it is a psychic dream, a spiritual dream. There's that super realism to it. And you know it's something different. That's lovely.
How it's just completely lifted.
That's wonderful. You must feel amazing at the minute. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Lady behind you.
Let's talk a bit about the spiritual implications of being an organ donor or receiving it.
Oh, yeah.
Or even being a blood donor.
Yeah, it's a different one, isn't it? It's a difficult one. You know, if somebody close to us needs something that we can give them, naturally we're going to want to give them that thing. That's the earthly perspective. And I would feel terrible if somebody very close to me needed something that I could give them in order to make their lives better. However, on the spiritual side, it's a different story. Because each of our bodies has been encoded for us, has been prepared specially for us. And that's the reason why, in heart transplants, for example, you have to take drugs for the rest of your life, because if you don't, the body rejects that heart. That's one side of it. Now imagine if somebody, and I have opted out of, you're not getting my organs, but there's a reason. I don't want anybody to have my blood and my organs with the vibration of a trance medium in them. They go mad. In all seriousness, imagine what that could do to them when they begin to see things or sense things.
They'd have to go on and publish 8 books, wouldn't
They
they?
would.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah. You're right. So it's a cleft stick. I would say personally, in all but the most dire of circumstances, I would say, no, I don't want you to have that. And I don't want you to have it because your vibrations are your vibrations, my vibrations are my vibrations, and the two are not meant to meet. Also from a physical point of view, part of my karma is bound up with this physical body. So if I'm giving you part of my physical body and sewing it into you and connecting it up to you, then that karma partially is being transmuted to you, and it's not your karma. So you're having to take on my challenges. I mean, we know, don't we? With people, again, with heart transplants, I could never play the piano before, but I can now. So it is shown that it is far more than just a physical object that is being transferred. It's actually part of the physical makeup and vibrations of that person that are being transferred as well.
So do you think that applies to being a blood donor as well?
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask the same thing.
Yes.
Back in 1977, I had to have my gallbladder removed, and the surgeon mucked it up, and then I ended up with 2 big major operations, but 3 times I had blood transfusions, and I've never been the same since.
It is so difficult because on the one level you want to keep the physical going, but on another level you are affecting the physical by what you put into it. As a younger man who didn't know what I know now,
I didn't have a choice.
no. As a younger man, I did give blood, but as I discovered more about how we're connected spiritually to the physical, I don't give blood anymore. I won't give blood anymore. Because I don't want, again, anyone to pick up my vibrations. Not because I'm selfishly holding in my vibrations, but they're not right for anybody else. I don't want to make their life worse because I've given them blood, you know.
At that same token, would you elect not to receive either or a donor organ?
Yes, I think so.
I want the donor list.
Yeah.
You automatically on it now, aren't you? But I've also made it very clear that I don't ever want to receive.
Oh, I didn't know that you had to. We've taken ourselves off it in that we don't want any of our organs to be donated. But do you also have to say, I don't want to receive any as well?
Yes.
Right. I'll look into that. Thank you. Yeah. No, I don't.
It used to be that you were never a donor, you were never presumed to be a donor, you have to get family permission when you passed over. But now everybody's considered to be a donor, and that's you specifically saying you don't want
Yes, we've done that. We said we don't want to be donors. Yeah. I mean, originally, and Josie talks about it, the physical body, the ancients knew far more than we do. And the ancients made sure that the bodies were burned. I know we cremate bodies now, but there was a reason for that. It's not to do with space, you know, trying to cram in a number of bodies into a graveyard. It's to do with knowing that once you have consumed the physical body, you've set the spirit free completely. So the spirit won't hang around that body if it's a little bit ignorant of where it should be going to. And it can't be used to influence another body. So they would completely transmute the physical body. Gone. What a good idea.
No, I just have a question. You and Joe met when you were younger. Are you in the same position as Joe now yourself, or somebody else?
No, and I've tried to be. My goodness, I've tried to be, and that's another sadness. And Tony knows about this as well. In that there was a young man who had great potential as a medium, and in the early stages wanted to be at a position where he could take over once I got too old to bring through more of the Joseph communications, more of that level of communication. And I sat with him for, I think, 2 years. And he was coming on as a medium. He was giving messages. They were accurate. He was at an early stage, but boy, he was powerful and he would have been wonderful. Just gave it all up.
Oh, no.
Gave it all up.
Did he give any reason why?
I think it was in his nature to only partially fulfill every task in his life. And he would get to a certain point and then abandon it. But it was a great sadness to see that happen. And there haven't been any other candidates since, and which makes me think at this stage in my life that perhaps there aren't meant to be any other candidates, except that there may be candidates for taking over the communications and continuing to spread the word once we've gone or are too old to be effective.
But not the mentorship.
But not the mediumship. You know, it used to be shocking in the early days. People would come to Joan's house and they'd say, "Oh, please teach us, Joan. Please form a circle and teach us." And she'd say, "No, I don't want to do that." They'd worry her and worry her and worry her like a terrier until she said, "Yes, okay." And so a circle would form in her house on one Wednesday, and she would take them through the discipline of meditation. And there might be 10 people. The next week there would be 5. The week after that there would be none. Instant chips they want. They don't want to put anything in. And then you have to ask them, why do you want to be a medium? You know, a lady once came up to me after a service in a spiritualist church and she said, "What do you think of tarot cards?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I've bought a pack." I said, "Well, they can express what is going on with a person because the person that shuffles them puts their vibrations into the pack." She said, "How long do you think it would take me to learn effective reading of tarot cards?" And I said, "Well, a few years, I would imagine." She said, "Oh, no, I don't want that." She said, "I was thinking more like a week. And then I could start charging for them."
People think they're going to be mediums after a couple of weeks and they're going to go out and they're going to make their fortune because they're working with their ego.
Well, yes. That's 7 years before I started working as a medium. 7 years. I was working at the time, and I sat with Joan every Sunday afternoon, come rain or shine, for 7 years before I was ready to take my first service and to give private readings at that time, which I no longer do. And Joan said, "Look, if you want to do this for yourself right at the beginning, forget it. If you want to do it for humanity, I'll sit with you." And that should be the commitment. But so few people are willing to do that.
So few people are willing to be committed.
Yeah, some people need to be committed. I think that's with their attitude on life. Yeah, years ago, will you come and hold a circle for us? This was in Blackpool, which is 30 odd miles from here. And so every 2 weeks I would set off and they said, we'll pay you £5 each, you know, bearing in mind that I got the petrol to go to Blackpool. And will you teach us? Okay. 10 people the first time, 5 the next, none the next. It's a glamour to a lot of people. And it's not about glamour. As Joan said, the sacrifices that you have to make as a medium are nothing compared to the sacrifices that come up in an ordinary life, a normal life. And it is a life of sacrifice. But we need people willing to make that sacrifice on behalf of all. So I don't think now that we will find someone else to train up. You know, if I was to take 7 years to train somebody up, I'd be quite long in the tooth by the time they were ready to go out. But then I wouldn't want them to go out and do services. I'd want them to stay in and bring through Joseph.
Yes.
That's what it should be, not bringing through relatives and bringing momentary comfort to somebody. Yeah. Yeah.
What about the implications of using like police cards into humans?
Well, again, an animal has a certain vibration. And so there is inherent in that organ something of the personality of the animal it has come from. So you might find somebody looking for truffles suddenly. Or grunting. Or saying, you know, the contents of that dustbin suddenly look appealing to me. You know. But for the same reason, I would far rather that healing took place as a result of spiritual light being put into a person. Now, Joan used to be able to sit with people. They'd come, the phone would ring and they'd say, Joan, I've got a lump. I've got a lump. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I think I've got cancer. Come over, calm down. And she would put, for example, if there's a lump on the arm, she'd put her hand over that lump. She would pray, and the same day that lump would disappear. Now, that's the power of healing. And that's what we should be doing in an ideal world. I know it's not an ideal world, but we should at very least be introducing into our medical procedures a seer that can also look at what's wrong psychically, spiritually with someone and say, well, yes, that's the manifestation on a physical level, but here's what's going on a spiritual level. Cure this, and we cure this.
Can I just say a word on our healing group?
Yes.
At lunchtime today, when I was going through, there's a lady gone up for a treatment, and I haven't seen her for a long time. Her husband has had a stroke, and he was in a bad way. And so a few weeks ago, I said, we'll put him in the healing group. And it was some aspect of the stroke that we put him in for. And that was it. I didn't know anything more about it till she came today. But she's just told me that the healing group, which meets on a Monday afternoon, of which Russ is a member as well, and Rebecca runs it. On Monday afternoon, we put him in the group, and instantly he got better. Now, he's not better 100%, but he started walking and he started moving out of the house. He had a new mindset about being able to not feel frightened of walking away from the house. I just got that story today at lunchtime. So healing, it's an intention healing. You put it in and you trust that upstairs are going to deal with it in the way that's most appropriate. And that's what happens. We see it time and time again. So healing for me would be number one for animals. We do animals, don't we, Ross? We do animals, we do people, houses, whatever comes in front of us.
I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for people giving me healing.
I'd have to come over.
I wouldn't be here.
I have a hearing problem that the healing group didn't sort out.
Right now, if people hadn't given me healing.
I wouldn't have been here right now if she hadn't had healing.
I've had 3 strokes.
3 strokes,
Yeah,
there you go.
So,
So I think at this particular time, healing is closer to us, more available to us than it's ever been. Yeah. And I think that's brought forward as well in the World Meditation Alliance. The energies that we align ourselves with are so strong and powerful and directed to us to be part of, to be the anchor of part of it, that it's more of an opportunity now than it ever has. We're blasting through what we call the field and the darkness, and that it's really happening. But just another little story on this person who will remain nameless, who was to be a successor, your successor.
Oh, yes, yes.
I'm not going to mention his name, Chris. He was astonishing. He really had an amazing ability, and he was working here at the sanctuary, and Michael was training him. It's the only person that's come along that Michael said, I can train this of a level that'll do it. And I took him to a house. I still have a mother alive, and there was a Rotary connection, and a member of the Rotary who do not believe in any of this stuff. The house that they'd moved into, every day at 5 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Yeah? And this is a Rotarian and his wife in a very nice house. And they'd studied it, they'd gone through all the records, and they'd looked and seen that there was an ancient path where monks used to walk from one place to the other place. And they figured out that their doorway was there, and the monks were knocking on the door, you see. And so I said, well, I'm not psychic, Chris is, who shall remain nameless. I'll bring Chris round, and if he tells us what's happening, we can heal it. And so we went round, and at 5 o'clock, sure enough, the doorbell rang. It did. And the door, I thought, wow, that's pretty good. I thought they were making it up. And the doorbell rang. And this guy said, it's the monks, and they're coming past, and this and the other. It was nothing to do with that. Chris said straight away, have you lost a cousin or a brother? And the chap said, yeah, it's my cousin. He's died. He said, it's him. He said, he just wants you to know that he's okay. And so we told him he was okay, never rang again from that day onwards. And this, at the sanctuary, we see these things all the time. And they're almost like day-to-day occurrences that are happening. And we're so aligned with it that it's the miracles, but they're no longer miracles. But they are those moments where we all go, wow, that's incredible. So I think you've got to discipline, as Michael said. You've got to work with it and work with it as individuals, and hopefully work with us as the World Meditation Alliance, because that's the way. It's hard work. It takes that 7 years with a talent to start off with. And it's the same with the meditation. You've got to keep working and get the mind clear. It never becomes totally clear, but it becomes quiet. And to be in that state, then you're accessing all that we're talking about. And like I said, it happens every day here. Lisa, you had a question?
No, I didn't. I was just having slightly.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In terms of, I mean,
Michael, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Am I okay interfering into your...
I'm grateful of the breather.
I thought
Don't worry.
I needed rest.
the Joseph communications are really quite amazing, and one of the things I want to ask is, I mean, I know you're on YouTube, you have this amazing place here, and all the things you do to promote Joseph communications, obviously the World Meditation Alliance as well. But what else is planned? But also, what else can we do?
They got a lot of podcasts on Spotify as well.
What else can we do to help as well?
Thank you. That's a really great question.
Over the years, Tony, I think you'll agree, we've done everything. We advertised extensively in the early days, but the world has changed and many magazines have gone out of business, so we can't do that. We do regular podcasts every 2 weeks to try and get spiritual concepts across to people who are not aware of the Joseph communications, just to get them to think outside the box a little bit.
TikTok and Instagram.
No, because here's a fact. Our youngest audience member tends to be 45. Or in Rebecca's case, 46.
Rebecca's just had a 30th birthday.
Not talking about this audience. I'm talking about the people that react to what we put out. And we've seen this.
Surprised that people get on TikTok because you've got so many mediums on there now that are using it, and they're so crude with their language. It's embarrassing.
Oh, I thought you meant us.
But it's not that. It's that the younger people, on the whole, Rebecca accepting, they're not interested in anything spiritual at all. At all. There's no concept of anything spiritual. And so it's down to us oldies and you slightly younger people to make the difference. And we know that it's this generation, this older generation, that will make the difference or not. Because if it's left to the younger generation at present, we're doomed.
But also you mentioned earlier that it is discipline. I absolutely agree. But also some people that are spiritually minded, that I can aware of, find even challenging themselves to be disciplined to meditate daily, to send out light, to send out healing. And it worries me somewhat that even a spiritually minded person doesn't have the discipline to do that daily, or even at all. That worries me in terms of, you know, what is the future. And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, I mean, it's amazing what we're saying in terms of the results and achievements that the World Meditation Light is having, as well as individuals. But I guess I'm trying to assess really, like, as Joseph says in the books, that you know, we're on a razor's edge, if you like. And you know, how well are we doing?
That's the $64,000 question, isn't it? And it's one that Joseph would never answer. When we took Joseph on the road, as it were, it was a popular question. It came up all the time. And he would say, look, if I say you've got X number of years left, you will solidify that fact in your mind, and you will bring and hasten the end forwards. It changes from day to day. And I think we've got to measure it in terms of, gosh, we got a soul out this week. Gosh, we got 2 souls out this week. Gosh, we made a difference to somebody's life this week, because we're all part of the same thing. So every soul that we change their perception is a triumph, isn't it? Because that soul won't come back. Their eyes have been opened. They understand spiritual principles, and off they go back into infinity and back to the angelic host eventually. So that is a triumph. It would be wonderful. We would love it personally. That the globe would change, that we would wake up tomorrow and everything was harmonious, everything was loving, everything was spiritually minded and spiritually based, and all the evils that we're witnessing currently have disappeared. It's a gradual chipping away at that consciousness. And an anchoring in the light, of course. The lady in front.
Yeah, just talking about the light, I was just wondering from the perspective of Persian gentleman's observatory or observation room, in a kind of looking at galaxies and so on, that I and lots of other people have a feeling that there is a light flooding slowly in that is at a higher level than it has ever been, and that we are all being influenced by this light on an increasing level, and we cannot go back to anything that we've known before. And that it is this increasing light that is at this time bringing up the chaos and the truth of things that have been hidden by the powers that be and so on.
Yes.
And I wonder about your sense.
What's our take on that? Yes. We've seen the light build through the World Meditation Alliance, and that light is available, and the reason why it's not been here before is that it's not been needed before, except at the time of the last fall.
Yeah.
It's almost like, let's send in the troops and see what we can do.
Right.
And we have to get that light in. That light exists, but it has to be brought in at a slightly lower frequency than it exists at, or it won't be registered. It won't be registered by the people that it's supposed to impact. Now, because of free will, that light that we send out reaches everybody, but it doesn't affect everybody. It affects those who are receptive to it. But as Joseph says, you lift up 5 people, and 5 people under those people are lifted up slightly. Then the people above are lifted up slightly higher, and they lift up the people below them. So we are, as people become aware of the light, the people who are not yet aware of the light are lifted up to a point where they think, wait a minute, how am I acting? I need to change. but it's a slow process. And we look forward to the day when we're not needed as the World Meditation Alliance, when that light has a direct impact on every soul and they react to it accordingly. But we're not at that stage yet.
Critical mass.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
There's a lady over there who wants to ask a question.
I work as a reflexologist at home.
As what, sorry?
Reflexologist
Oh, yes,
at home.
yes.
And I've had a massive influx recently. All through my career, I've had people come in, like, I started off and I got back injuries or back problems. For the moment, a massive influx of people on the cusp of questioning and of spiritual awareness, awakening.
Yeah.
There's been lots and lots of people coming, and as part of the sessions that, I mean, this is a recent thing, this last year, and as part of the sessions, like talking things through, it's like, although none of them have taken up the World Meditation Alliance group, or maybe even the books, and I have to be careful how much you can push things.
Of course.
But I do think that people maybe go to them when they're ready to do so. But there is definitely this rise in people's awareness that is generally an influence. I witnessed it.
It's two encouraging stories.
It is encouraging, yeah, it is encouraging. And of course, the world's coming up short, isn't it, in so many areas, that it forces them to look for something more. Can there not be anything more than this? This state of the world, surely there's something. And then they begin their personal journey. Thank you for sharing.
In psychotherapy, we say that people get on the wheel of change, the cycle of change. It's like a hamster wheel, and they're alongside it. And we say the hardest step of therapy is the first step where they put the foot on the wheel of change. And I think that's what you're experiencing, is that people are getting closer and closer to actually taking that step to get on the wheel. Yeah, and then there's no going back once you do that. You can't go back.
Thank you. I think we'll wind it up after 3 more questions, Tony. That's all right. I think we're reaching the end of the
Gentleman,
session.
tie.
The gentleman. Hi.
I appreciated very much what you put this day.
Thank you.
But what's come over to me, how much we need divine help. All of us.
Yeah.
We can't do it on our own.
No.
We have to have assistance, whether to raise our vibration up, to exercise divine. We're all going to be a light, a spark, if you want to say this.
Yes.
No, we have a battle, don't we, with the fall.
Yes.
Because the situation, like you said just a few minutes ago, if we're in an ideal world, we wouldn't have a problem. Because we would all be connected to the divine. But that's been cut. So we need help, all of us.
Yes.
In a very humble, meek way, we have to ask our Heavenly Father. We have to come to places like this, where Joseph, those books, those 8 books are marvellous, covering a wide field of subjects, and we all need it.
Yes. But also, in all of the books, what does Joseph refer to time and again? The divine.
Yeah.
He says, it's not coming from me, this is how it is, but it comes from the divine. And there has been a movement to eliminate the divine from our consciousness. Oh, as I said at the beginning with that false headline, oh, there's no God. Oh, there's no God. Don't believe in God, believe in us. There's been a deliberate move. Because if you further divide people from the divine that they are, everything falls apart and you can control them. And it's nothing to do with religion, it's to do with what is. We are each, as you quite rightly say, a part of the divine. So everything that we are doing is based in the divine, starts with the divine, ends with the divine. And we know that the vibrations that come through to us for the World Meditation Alliance are channeled from the divine via the angelic host, passed down by the Persian gentleman who interprets them for us, and distributed by us. Everything we do, every single thing we do, is rooted in the divine and the knowledge that we're part of the divine. And we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, yes, we do.
And that's part of our task, isn't it? And it's a difficult task because people have been put off the notion of a higher power deliberately.
When I read the book on the fall, I thought, well, Ken, if you could see it, I think you'd be horrified. If we could see the energy field, I think we'd have a shock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the
I
currents.
think we would, I think it'd scare the pants off.
No, you're absolutely right. And to see.
Without help, like here, the divine help, our prayers to our Heavenly Father, we will really struggle.
Yes. And to involve our God, the God in everything that we do. I don't know what I'm doing in this situation, Father, but you do. Off we go. Walk with me. Keep me safe. Inspire me.
That's right.
Have that conversation all the time and know that you're involving the divine that you're part of in everything that you do and say and think. And that is what is needed.
I try to do every day. I try to have a talk to him, like talking to a father.
Yes.
You know, because he is our father.
Yeah.
So he encourages us to talk to him.
Yes. Yes.
Without difficulties and problems,
Yes.
sickness,
Yes.
or whatever the situation.
Yeah.
But we do need help.
We do.
I'm very grateful for this day.
Oh.
Well, I'm great. We're grateful for all of you being here. We're all on the same path. We're all sharing the same light and working with the same light. It's the same mission. You know, I'm just a spokesperson for the soul group, but we're all doing the same thing. And we all have to keep on keeping on each day. And it's difficult. It's difficult because the world seems to be so steeped in the darkness and ignorance at the moment. But we are getting through, and we'll continue to get through, and we will win. It's inevitable. The power of the divine and the power of the angelic host far greater than anything that little minds here think they can get up to. So we're only witnessing a blip, I think, and we'll come out of this.
I'd just like to say that Ken here is a hero because he set off at 2 o'clock
My
this morning.
goodness.
I think he deserves a round of applause.
That's incredible.
For that.
Is that the 3 questions?
I think that's it. Where are we now? It's 10 past. So,
We
yeah.
can take one more.
One more question, please. The lady there.
Can I just mention, you know, we're talking the Persian gentleman sense as well. The energies are rising. There's more and more energies coming in. The energies are more rising and rising.
Yes.
Now, when you mentioned before as well about the lower astral,
Yeah.
the lower astral realms will be removed altogether. Now, those who are on the lower astral, probably karmically, will be allowed one life on this realm here to choose which way they're going to go. Now, if they're not going the right way, they will not be reborn on this planet again in the future. It's only going to be the people who are rising up who are going to be reborn. That is why everything is going to go much higher up than we know at the moment.
I think we've already reached that point. From what we've been told, I think we've already reached that point. And I think we're now in a deciding phase. I think the world goes one way or the other. And increasingly, I'm thinking that humanity goes one way or the other, or splits. In that, you will have a certain number of souls that have divorced themselves to such an extent from anything spiritual that they cannot see anything, they cannot countenance anything spiritual. And for the time being, will have to be left to their own devices. And there will be people who are aware of the spiritual life and the divine within them who will continue to move on. I also think we're in a dangerous time where we think we're so arrogant as leaders and nothing can happen to us. Have you seen the news recently about the increasing threat of the asteroid? There's the old adage, man makes plans and God laughs. And we've known for a while that This is a deciding time. It really is. Joseph's spoken about it. And what we do over the next few years is absolutely crucial as to what happens with the earth. Either, as it is done twice before, as Joseph says, civilization will end, or we will come to our senses, we will reinfuse this earth spiritually, and we will move onwards mentally and spiritually and become more harmonious and in connection with each other and the divine. But all the warnings are there in the books. All the warnings are there in what's being said to us, that this is a deciding factor. It's a deciding time, which is why the work of the WMA is so crucial at this time. It will determine the future of the earth.
You cannot imagine how much the WMA is doing, the effect we're having. And this is why I would say, if more of you could join, or you can get more people, you wanted to do something, get out there and get some more people for us, because it's making a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it's up to us. It's up to us old ones.
And it's also creating a feeling of family for people as well. People who say, what can I do spiritually? There is a sense of family and belonging weekly because of the WMA. So there is that benefit for meditators as well, and they are part of our family. Well, oh, sorry. Very last question.
The last one.
Yeah.
This might not be a route we want to go down, but
Oh, gosh.
say, for instance, the Light newspaper.
Yes.
There are people that read that could potentially be very spiritual. Perhaps an article in there.
We have tried, we would, over the years, we have tried everything. I, for example, have given interviews and they've said, oh, there's somebody in America you should have an interview with. They're fantastic. They have thousands of followers, that you'll have requests for books coming in here, there and everywhere. Interview, nothing. Interview with somebody else, nothing. Interview with somebody else, nothing. Would you like to put an article in our paper? Yes, I'll write an article. It doesn't go in. Or it'll only go in if you spend X amount of advertising with us. We have tried various social media platforms.
We have advertised in the Light paper, maybe 10 adverts.
Yeah.
In fact, over the years I've spent maybe 350,000 on advertising. So we've done everything.
Everything. And continue to do. We haven't given up, but it's a difficult equation.
Have you ever mentioned it to Radio Lancashire?
So
But yes, we went.
that's the last question.
Yeah, didn't we?
That's four.
This will put us on the map. This is where it is. Radio Lancashire. Yes. But I have to.
And with your vision of Field of Dreams, and that if we build it here, it will, and we pulse it out, it will come, it will.
Yeah, we've seen the changes we've made here.
Yes.
It is Field of Dreams. We've had some amazing younger people coming into the sanctuary, doing an incredible job. All the team at the sanctuary, amazing. We're reinventing it. We've got a library now next door, and on the library we're going to have all of the Joseph material by video, by auditory, by book, read, whatever. So that's coming on. That's going to have everything there. I think the Field of Dreams, we've been told to really strengthen the home base here. And so people coming on a Friday, they're most welcome on the meditations. Tuesday night? No, Tuesday night. Perhaps Tuesday night. We have the healing group on Monday where we're looking for more healers. So that's another one. But
You're looking for more healers online?
yeah,
Or physically?
on Zoom, both. We do both.
Work with a very good
Okay.
healer,
And so talk to me afterwards. Talk to Vanessa afterwards. And we'll tell you that. But there's loads going on. And also, Michael's going to be doing three, if you liked it, Michael's going to do 3 more this year. So it'd be like 1 a season?
Yes, on different aspects of spirituality. Yes, we're going to do that. But also, Tony, we have to mention that we have to make concepts of the field and the fall available to a wider audience. We've produced an animation on the field that's taken some time to do. And the script was provided by PG, by the Persian gentleman.
Can I tell them the story?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, I'm going to sit down.
Okay. This was incredible. This is how Michael works. He's like, yeah, you don't mind me telling. We
don't know yet.
The field and the fall, they're really hard concepts to get over to people. If we talk about the field, I mean, people think of it up there, it's more like a cloud than a field, and there's things that make it really hard to understand. It's the quantum field, really, the field of human consciousness, whatever you want to call it. So what we decided to do was to make an animation of it. And Michael and I saying, I think we'll do an animation of this. We sat in my office, I think it was, and PG came straight in. And he said, would you mind if I write it?
Well, he actually said, I'm writing it.
I'm writing it. Yeah, you don't argue.
Yeah.
And so we said, yeah, sure, fine, that makes life a lot easier. And then he said, would you mind if I script it, if I act like a director for it? So Michael then sat, and he sat for a week. And this is how I interpreted the story that you gave me, was that words were flying across the room. PG was there, and an angelic lady.
Yes.
Yeah, and words are floating across. And Michael's looking at these words, and then PG would say, write that one down. And Michael would go and write it down. And at the end of a week, they had the most amazing script for a cartoon for the field. And then he came back afterwards and said, and this took another 2 weeks, I think, wasn't it? About
the actual visuals for it. Yes.
Page after page of how we do it, how the animation is to take place. And Michael brought this down, and then they said Michael has to read this, so Michael had to do the voiceover for it, and it was like a divine animation, a divine film. It was incredible. I don't know who's seen it. It is out there on the website. Yeah.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the website.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. You know, you show it kids, they love it. And so we're now doing the fall. The same has happened in 3 parts, the fall. And it was the same for Michael, where he just lived in this cuckoo land for weeks while these words are flying around. So we've got these tools, we've got them. And all the time we're looking and testing for ways that might get through a little bit easier on these concepts. And I'm running a spiritual, not a workshop, every Friday morning, 10 o'clock till 12, 10:30 till 12, where people come with the Joseph problems or not understanding the Joseph, and I'll try and make it easier. Janice, yeah. So anybody who wants to come along, just come along on a Friday morning, 10:30 till 12, and that's here. And that's, again, part of consolidating the base here, getting it stronger here, what we're doing. So...
yeah, and that's important, isn't it? Because we've looked outwards in all directions and done absolutely everything to get the word out there. But increasingly, the input that we get from the soul group says, make this the point, and people will come here. Radiate out from this point. Don't try and spread it out that way, bring it inwards. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and the sanctuary is that point.
It is that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't get up this far. I can't get up here.
No, but you can connect with us
I can connect.
by
Yeah.
Zoom. You can connect with us via what we put out on media, you know.
I think that's everything, isn't it?
I think that is everything. It just remains for us to say thank you so much
It's been amazing.
for your
Yeah.
time.